Ecuador?
Yeah.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And it's a sunny, sunny summer day. Summer solstice, longest day of the year. What's up, Jean-Luc?
So, what time does the sun set today where you are at?
So I checked it right before we went on. It should set exactly at 9:33.
Wow, 9:33 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Suriname is quite boring when it comes to this stuff because the sun still sets at 7.
It, it's the same.
It's the same.
There
It's
is no
almost
difference. It's
it's
like
it's
five
almost
minute
the same.
difference throughout the
No,
year.
it's half an hour. It's half an hour, but it's still it's compared to the north where you are. It's I mean, it's all very different. But yeah, so it's a different kind of episode. Um, you didn't throw me under the bus, but I'm gonna explain what's going on. I just jumped out of another live session to catch this one.
I did say anything yet. You're
But but life is hectic at the moment. Let's keep it at that. Life is very hectic at the moment, and I'm happy to be able to do social confos with you, and keep the weekly ritual. But we just watched the match between Suriname and Haiti, Concacaf Championship under
How did
20
that
years
go?
old.
Short recap, and then we can
We have
go
a
straight.
talented team. We have a really talented team, but at this point, it's just talent. And yeah, do you know how it feels like to have talent but not be the best because others have more experience than you?
Yeah,
Others have one specific skill set that's more important than the skill sets that you have for that particular situation. It's something like that.
and
So
especially in team situations, right? Synergy also matters. Like,
yeah, synergy. How long have you been together? How long do you interact together? So these are and that's why I like team sports, by the way. So I'm big on team sports because team sports have helped my managerial skills. To be quite honest,
gotcha.
um, it does help with leadership. It does help understand group dynamics. It does help you identify strengths and weaknesses of others. So from that perspective, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm quite happy.
yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're still dealing with people, right? And it's managing people's expectations and their emotions and everything that comes with it. But coming back to social convos, so I'm wondering, you said hectic day had that covering that game. How is the past few weeks, I guess, life evolved or devolved with this virtual space? Because you know my situation. So have things shifted, uh, or
So
because you were out of it for a few weeks as well, right? So
yeah,
how's
so
that
there's a
going?
lot of pressure. There's an immense amount of pressure to perform now, and it's actually a positive pressure in the sense that I missed 3 weeks of my life, and for me, 3 weeks is quite a lot. Um, Basically, if I look at my schedule and what I managed to do, which I'm quite proud of, is things like social convos, things that I've been doing for a while, and things that are important to me. I'm giving them enough priority that I'm able to do them. I'm not giving them enough priority to properly grow the way I want it to grow, but I'm giving it enough priority that I'm keeping on doing it instead of getting in a situation where I came from, where basically I had 15 tasks a day, and 10 of those 15 tasks were things other people wanted me to do.
Yeah. So is there anything in particular that you like scrap? Like, okay, this is non-negotiable. This is
No,
not gonna.
I just structured my life in such a way that there are three windows of opportunity a day where our executive assistant jumps in and says, okay, I'm going to plan a meeting there. And those
Mm.
are the only three windows. So you have a 10 o'clock window in the morning, 11 o'clock window, and I think a 3 o'clock window. Those are the only three windows of an hour there are to basically say, like, hey, Jean-Luc, I need this done. I need your help with it. Can you do this for me? All the other time slots are slots that I've configured in something that I need to do or I want to do. So that's the idea about it. Um, we don't talk about MBO today, okay? Sure. If you don't want to talk about it, there's an interesting conversation there, but we won't dive into that. But so the
Okay,
biggest
NBA
change,
band. Gotcha.
yeah. So the biggest thing, Diego, is I decided to completely structure my life, and it's good doing that because then you see like where the nuances are and why you sometimes have to divert from it. So, for instance, today I had a situation where I had two meetings or two tasks that were scheduled for an hour, but both almost ran for 3 hours, which means all the tasks that were supposed to be done,
Yeah.
which were mostly nice to haves, not must haves, are gonna be rescheduled to probably next week, or if I'm unlucky, July. And basically, I can already say, like, if you come up with something new and it's in no way connected, most of the times I will be able to bring you into contact with somebody else who can do it. But if you want me to do it, it's gonna be the end of July.
Mm.
So it's the benefit of structuring, completely structuring, is that you really see like, oh, I really don't have time for this. I really don't have time for that, and that helps because you procrastinate less as well.
Yeah, like and it's especially when, well, once you get the rhythm down, it's easier to, you know what's allocated, but
I never get the rhythm down. I don't. So some things just stick, like drinking a liter of water every day. Like that's something that's very important to my dad. He says like anything with sugar you drink, basically you have to drink the same amount of water to completely
mm,
rinse it as well. So drinking a liter of water is like one of the things that just stuck. And but it's not like a routine. Like there are certain routine elements, but it's not like it's always at the same time of the day, the same amount kind of routine.
okay, so going on that routine, so we routinely also went live on your Facebook. Why did you decide to remove Facebook? Is it
So
just for today, or is
the
it?
other the other life is still going, by the way. The life that I jumped out of,
Oh,
the life that I jumped out of to join Social Confoes,
and that's on
because
your Facebook.
Social Confoes is in that sense a more important part because it's a routine based thing that we do every week. So I had to let go that show for Social Confoes because that's the commitment we made. That show usually doesn't run on Tuesdays, so I decided I have to be able to get out. Uh,
Yeah. Okay. So it's just a
and
one-off
it's still
instance.
no, but no. Here's the
Or
thing: it's not necessarily a one-off instance. It just so happens to be that it's still running on my Facebook account, and that's finally the opportunity because I've been considering doing Social Confoes and not have it be on my Facebook account, and now we've done it. So I want to try this out.
okay,
Um,
keep it out.
it does it of course for the views it's different because Facebook does have the biggest audience. So for me to take it out of Facebook, it will definitely impact the views.
Well,
But
I don't think it is as consequential at the stage we are now, but yeah.
well,
Uh,
it's at least 100, 200 views that you kind of just lose. Whether these people stay for 2 minutes, whether they stay for 30 seconds, it does remove a certain amount of visibility. And I'm still considering whether I should actually continue to do this one on my profile and do the sports one on my page. That's the consideration that I'm making. But I haven't been able to let go. But if now I actually experience this without it, so it's gonna make it easier to remove it.
Okay, got it. So let's
Yeah,
talk summer solstice a bit. So you've lived in the northern hemisphere, Netherlands, for quite a few years. So you've also experienced like these shifts in longer days, longer nights.
I
So
experienced I experienced the day where the sun never fully went down. I was studying in Helsinki. I was studying in Helsinki around this time. Not exactly around this time.
yeah,
Was it the
because
last?
summer is just starting.
Yeah, it
So
was. It
June,
was.
June,
It
July.
was. Yeah, I think I went there in March, and I still till the end of May,
Yeah.
something like that. So at the end of May, 2009, we went through not completely the northern part, but relatively far north in Finland. And at 3 a.m. in the morning, there was still this glaze, this orange glaze in the
Yeah,
sky.
I think the Alaska or one of the northernmost parts of the world on particular day, it's probably today, has the almost 24 hours like sunlight.
Yeah,
There's just no night.
yeah. It's pretty cool. I think it was a very cool experience to be 3 o'clock in the morning, still able to see each other without actual
Yeah.
artificial light. You just see each other. You can still completely interact. It's not dark. So that's I think one of the coolest experiences I had.
But if you bring that back down,
Yeah,
right? So the more south you go, to more civilization, I think I'd say the Finland is pretty up north.
yeah,
Netherlands is a bit more situated between 9 and 10 p.m.
yeah,
Where at the latest, I think. So how did that impact, I guess, like work slash school,
yeah. I
like
I wouldn't.
productivity or
Okay, it's first of all, it's different being a student in the Netherlands compared to working there. So that's one thing to in consideration. I think the biggest impact it has is when you're a child. So when you're a child, say like you're 6 years old, and you're used to going to bed when it gets dark. So oh, it's getting dark. I'm gonna go to bed, and then it's summer, and then it's 9 p.m. and you're like, but it isn't dark yet. So can I stay up because it isn't dark yet? So as a child, I think it has the biggest impact. As for if you're a student, um, yeah, Comedy Central. When I was studying, there was a certain Comedy Central schedule, programming schedule, and I think it was Frasier, the show Frasier,
Mhm.
that ran between 12:30, so half past midnight, until 1 o'clock in the morning. And then 1 o'clock in the morning, the really good shows would start, like the fun stuff. But it was midnight programming for a reason, because it was if you were awake at that hour and you had a half an hour that you would just, then okay, then you can just watch it. So basically, between 12:30 and 1 o'clock in the morning, you had the window to jump out and say like, "I'm gonna go to bed." But if you kept the TV running and it started 1 o'clock, and you're a student and you don't always have a responsibility the next day, you could end up saying like, "Oh damn, it's 5 o'clock. I really
Yeah.
need to go to bed." Um, and I think in a sense it was easier then, because now with YouTube and Netflix, you're no longer you can no longer blame the programming, basically, because Netflix is just there, YouTube is just there. So if you want to spend from 1 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the morning just binge watching your favorite show, and you don't have any internal motivation or discipline to stop yourself, you're just gonna go. There's nothing holding you back, basically.
Have you ever had like trouble like getting to sleep because of like too much light, or has
No,
that been inconsequential for you, light or
no,
dark?
there's no connection for me there. How about
Yeah.
you?
Uh, Sometimes, yeah. Depending if it's still light, it's a mental trick it plays on you sometimes. Like, okay, you don't, as you said, you don't feel it yet. That child mindset, and I think especially when you're not used to it, if you're experiencing it for the first time, I think for the first few days or weeks, it's gonna throw you off. But that comes also with travel. I think if you travel to a different time zone, you'll have that jet lag and everything. So I won't be able to necessarily pinpoint it down to only the light, but also the jet lag. But having lived 10 months in New Zealand, experiencing both of that, uh, what I basically did when it turned dark late is like just close the blind just to simulate darkness and get that feeling.
Because New Zealand is the other way around, right? In
Yeah,
New
so
Zealand,
it's probably
the
it's
21st of December is probably the day with the most light.
winter starting now in New Zealand.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, yeah, the southern
yeah.
hemisphere is like the opposite. But we
Yes,
we, we usually see in the media things happening in Europe, North
yeah.
America, so the northern hemisphere. So summer is mostly associated with June, July. But the southern hemisphere, like Argentina, New Zealand, Australia, it's quite the opposite.
That's quite interesting. So, um, the theme of today is kind of inspired by Tracy York.
Right.
Tracy York is she's like the godfather of Hive. Also the one that's making sure
Godfather or
that
godmother?
godmother, or the fairy. It depends on how you want to view it. And she basically is the reason why Hive Chat still exists. Hive Chat is a weekly tweet chat about Hive. And today she came up with the idea of why don't we talk about something and then you tell us what's positive about it? Give me one positive and one negative about it. So most of the time we do overrated, underrated, but it's good to have a perspective on both sides why something would work or why something wouldn't work. So basically, that was the
Sounds fun.
idea.
Yeah, yeah, sounds
Yeah,
fun.
that was the idea behind it. And of course, we can copy one or two questions from the Hive chat, but just idea in general that we can just shoot concepts at each other and then say like, okay, give me one good thing and one bad thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do it. Let's start with the summer solstice.
yeah. So
Long days,
yeah, so
good or bad.
what's one positive thing about the sun setting at 9 p.m. and what's one negative? I think we covered the negative. It's like you only at 10 p.m. realize like, oh wait, half of my evening is gone already. I think that's for me the biggest one.
Yeah, I guess if you look at the positive side, you have more daylight, and I think from a creator perspective, if you're into visual media, uh, if the sun is setting later, you have longer like golden hours, longer soft light. So uh, in these times, it's great to go outside and use that natural light to your advantage because there's less energy use as well. And yeah, from that creative perspective, you can do more during the daylight.
But also, if you have a tight schedule during the day, it's easier because if the sun sets very early, it's like, oh, we can't shoot at night, or we have to then do a night scene. But if the sun only sets at after 9 p.m., you still have that window that you can first finish your day work or your
Yeah.
job and then shoot afterwards or do the thing that you want to do afterwards, and it's still light. So that's definitely a very, very big advantage indeed.
Yeah, and the negative is, as you said, your sense of day or time gets muddled
It,
up. So
it gets completely wrecked.
you need to be self-aware on what you do during the day.
So what do you have in mind for the next one?
Uh, t- let's pull one or two from the Hive chat, and then we'll riff off. Give us some time to think
Okay,
of a bit.
okay. Cryptocurrencies.
Good or bad?
Yeah, one good, one bad.
Well, the bad's obviously despair happening right now. No, I'd say the bad is lots of scams and things that surround it on bad intent. So lots of people using that vehicle to, yeah, misuse, uh, to promote bad intentional cryptocurrency or tokens.
Yeah,
That
it's completely unregulated and volatile at the moment. I think that's definitely the biggest problem.
I won't call it unregulated anymore, but I'd say it's more controversial.
There's no. I like the judicial system is not really involved yet. Like there is there is some regulation, but it's really limited and it's only in certain countries.
Exactly. But keeping to the part, yeah, that's obviously one of the negative sides, bad sides. I'd say the positive side is accessibility for especially the developing world.
Yeah.
That is one of the very, very plus sides I see: accessibility to people who don't have access to traditional systems, traditional banking systems, whatnot, being exposed to a more global ecosystem.
But is it reaching them though?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say yes. I would say yes.
Yeah.
Looking at developments happening in Africa, I won't say the masses yet,
Yeah.
but if you compare it to people that don't even have access to traditional, some of that portion is already using these means to, transact within borders, but also with outside borders. Looking at Latin America, especially like El Salvador, Venezuela, these countries that have imploded with, hyperinflation and everything.
I also feel that it helps with the overall education of understanding economics,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
understanding investing.
That is, I think, one
Yeah.
of the biggest side effects it has when people enter that
Yeah.
space.
I think it
Is
really helps to get a broader sense of how investing works, how economics works. Not necessarily international economics or macroeconomics, but getting a feel of how
yeah, the concept of transacting
the
and
basic,
money. Yeah,
yeah. And also, yeah, I think it really is underrated on that aspect, to be honest.
yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's pull up uh veganism. Good or bad?
Okay, the good is easy. You're much more well aware of what you put into your body. And I mean, if you have vegans who are like, yeah, I don't eat meat, and they don't really dive into the
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to the theory behind it and thinking on what's the importance of vegan, but also understanding what you're eating. They're like, yeah, I'm vegan, I don't eat meat, and that's just it. And you have people that are like, okay, I'm gonna find out what I like to eat and what natural products can I use that kind of replace what I enjoy eating and still feel like they eat the same, have the same enjoyment from eating, but eating healthier and more response, taking more ownership and responsibility towards certain aspects of life. I'm gonna be very careful there because not all vegans are doing it for a better world or a better earth. Some are just doing it because they don't want to kill animals. Some are just doing it for their own personal health. So there's different layers to it,
mm.
to be honest. But I think the biggest upside of veganism is that you get more aware of what goes into your body.
And what would you say is the downside?
There's so many downsides. There's so many.
Pick one.
Um, okay, I'm just gonna get personal here. It's not really a downside, but I can't eat. I can no longer eat steak. I can no longer eat. I mean, the plant-based burgers are great. Fine, they're gonna get there eventually. But I love my meat.
Yeah, that's
How
a
about
fair
you?
and valid
For you,
point.
if you take one, positive and one negative. What one would you say?
Um, I'd say the positive is definitely that awareness on how nutrition, etc., works. So if you're looking at from a personal health perspective, that is a plus. But one downside I see is that this is more like as a movement wise, it's getting too overhyped, and that people are doing it for the sake of being part of the mainstream and not consciously doing it for, as you mentioned,
Yeah, the
different
superfoods
reasons.
the superfoods thing is really interesting. But it all comes down to the same thing. Like people who are doing it for the hype, people who are like really aware and actually researching, even though research doesn't always make sense or isn't always good, but at least they're constantly trying to improve what they're doing, and this is continuous improvement. That's always a good thing for
Yeah,
society.
because if you
Yeah,
look at the natural evolution of how
yeah,
we humans eat,
yeah.
uh,
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. The main reason why I'm not necessarily, I don't feel like, and the tipping point for us not to hurt society is relatively, we're not even close to the tipping point, and we're most likely not gonna get there because there's overconsumption. And the main problem is there's overconsumption, and because out of greed, it will be overproduced. And then you can make a statement like, and that's where crypto gets interesting, because you can create a situation where like the demand is just not enough, and companies will have to tone it down and dial down or just go bankrupt because people are no longer purchasing the meat. Um, but yeah, that tipping point is so far out that I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure that's gonna work. And if I look at my ecological footprint, I dare say it. My biggest problem to this earth is that I travel by plane too much. And basically, if you travel once a year by plane, you kind
but
of already
that's
you've
gonna be a
destroyed. You've just,
big footprint for most people if you look at
yeah,
it
you've destroyed your
percentage wise of
ecological footprint already.
ecological.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
let's go on. I actually have a few more fun ones to go through.
Okay.
But
Okay. Go ahead.
you
Go
got
ahead.
one?
No, go ahead. Well, I'll just let you go. Yeah.
Have you heard of the Dali Mini AI
Dali Mini
or
AI.
the Dali AI? Yeah, the Mini is just in one of the
How do you
iterations.
spell that?
DALL space E or dot E
Okay.
dash E. So basically, what it is, it's the AI has evolved as such that it can create art based on a very complicated text description. Found it?
Go ahead and explain to me what the positive is of this, aside from hopefully some kind of innovation that will probably properly used in the future.
That's what I'm laying up for you. Did you see any positive or negatives with this?
Oh, this is so much. Like, can we just keep it to regular memes? Wouldn't that wouldn't that be better if you just kept it to regular memes? Like, what's one positive about memes and what is one negative about memes?
But this is more interesting.
Okay, go ahead. Then you do the AI one. I just listen because I'm not getting it. I'm not
Okay,
feeling
okay.
it. Yeah.
Um, on one end, it's a good side would be a great way to iterate simple ideas or thoughts if you want to illustrate something or get a feel of how something would look like. Uh, Elon Musk strapped on a rocket getting shot towards Mars, and it will generate something like that. Uh, you could describe a scene like a koala eating a banana, lying down in a hammock. How that look? So it's to spark inspiration, ideas, and get really
So
quick
so
iterations.
so who gets ownership when it comes out? Because you put it in and it comes out. And so who has ownership of the actual visual?
I don't know, and I don't care at this point because there's no, I don't see regulation. I'm looking at it at a pure creative standpoint on AI. But if we're talking about the bad side, there's all this. things gonna come with public domain and everything, who gets ownership.
Yeah,
But
I mean, this is killing, man. I mean, like, who gets ownership? Like, can I go and put in an awesome text and then say, like, this is my NFT collection? Yeah, like, that's the question.
well, who gets owners? Do you want to open that can of worms on the whole ownership thing? Like really go down to the root?
No, but I mean, yeah, we have to. I mean, like, let's be honest. We're getting in a situation where people are creating digital art or digital, um, yeah, digital assets, and how will you evaluate them? I had a discussion about NFTs and even sports NFTs. Like NFTs that are worth like $5 now, $20 now. Most likely, if they have like a high mint count, they're just gonna go to $1 at the end of it.
Yeah,
Like,
that's basic supply and demand.
yeah,
That's price valuation. But we're talking about ownership here, like owning something, like assigning ownership. And if you look at traditional art, let's remove NFT from the equation for a second.
no, no, but listen, I'm gonna go a little bit further because we're talking about art. But at a certain point, if the mint count gets high, it's no longer art. It's just a poster you can buy at Walmart.
So you won't consider a poster art?
Yeah, but no, no, but what I mean, like, it's like it loses its complete uniqueness. Like the thing
Yeah.
that makes art great is most of the times there's one of a kind.
Well, in what context are you defining art here? Because the way you're
Visual art.
describing it, I'm feeling like very like fine art, like limited piece, like hand
Yeah,
painted or
yeah,
something.
but even a Banksy, even like street art. Like if there's a large amount in circulation, it becomes a collectible. It's no longer art. It's more of a collectible than it's art.
Yes, but I don't see the problem there in your
I'm not saying
description.
it's a problem. I'm just saying like from an ownership perspective, if there are millions of it and everybody values it at $1, it no longer matters. But if there's five of them,
No longer matters to who.
the
It's
ownership
relative.
aspect, like if the value is close to zero, the ownership aspect doesn't matter. If somebody copies something
S-
from you and it's worth $1, you're like, yeah, sure, I'll go ahead and copy it. If somebody copies something from you and the original piece that you own is worth $10,000, it matters to you. But if it's like a $1 difference, it doesn't matter to you.
So does it matter because it's highly valued in?
Yeah, that's how I think about it, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, okay. So
That's
that's
my
what I'm trying
perspective.
to get
Yeah,
get across.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it's very nuanced, and we can't put all that under one umbrella. So that's why I was asking,
yeah,
like, do you really want to
yeah.
go to the root
Maybe not.
definition of ownership? That's because that goes layers
Yeah.
deep. And if you're gonna have to look at all the regulations in different regions, then it gets very convoluted
So, but what
fast.
do you feel about the Delhi Mini? What's one
Yeah.
positive and what's
So
one?
the positive side is it can spark creativity, getting ideas or a quick picture in your mind to iterate or create something really fast that you thought of just to see how it feels, just to get inspiration. The downside, a negative is, of course, as AI gets more intelligent, it can be misused. As it is now, it is still a tool to be used by humans, and humans can misuse a tool. Uh, and on the other end, we don't know how this can further evolve in the
Okay,
safety side, so to say.
so talking about AI, are you more on Elon Musk's side or on Naval's side? So the Elon Musk side is kind of like worried about how far AI is evolving and worried that it will, or there's potential for it to control us.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Naval is saying like AI is at such an early stage, like it's only getting to basic functions at the moment, and the worry part is only gonna come when you can wire it to have its own brain. But now, what AI is, it's just taking very
It's
small
still
practical
predictable.
pieces.
It isn't
It's
sentient yet.
completely
Yeah,
predictable. It
yeah,
doesn't have emotion in the equation at all.
yeah.
So,
I would at this point I would still lean more towards Naval's side on it's still very early stage. I think the sentient stage of a post-apocalyptic world is still far off, and I don't think we'll see that within our lifetime. But it is
yeah,
something to be conscious of. But I lean at this point more towards the
yeah.
still early, still interesting, but be conscious of it.
Okay. What's the next one you got?
You don't got anything for me?
I don't. I'm not. If it's something pops up which I find interesting,
Okay,
I
okay.
will.
Do you want to go a controversial one first or a fun one?
Yeah, sure. Let's do the controversial one first, and the fun one later.
Okay.
The next.
Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs.
The
Positives and
benefits.
negatives.
The benefits are actually that the adoptability and the mainstream will pick up. I think that's a major plus.
Okay.
The absolute downside is going to be completely centralized and politically used, and that's definitely a problem.
Yeah, and I think China has its own form like that already implemented, right? Where every citizen is has a like record, like
The China situation is much more extreme than that. It's like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
complete big brother system all over. Like if you do a felony, you cannot get a loan. Those kind of things. And basically, the government owns all your data. It's a really interesting system. I do have to ask before you answer it. Did you follow the Burn Board Age Out Club hashtag?
No, I haven't been on CT for the past week,
Okay.
really following up. NFT NYC is actually ongoing right now,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of I need to catch up to, but I haven't seen
There's
anything.
some interesting stuff. I will keep. I'll if we're gonna use it in a future episode, but
Uh,
definitely read up on
I saw I
Burn
think a
API
photo
Club.
of people on strike with signs and stuff on
Yeah,
NFTs in general, but not the
no,
ape
no,
thing.
the Board API Club is they're burning the Twitter is burning them up, but there's a story behind it. One of the creators um, changed his name to something, but you have to research it. I won't mention it. I won't give it away because otherwise we can't talk about it in the future. But going back to the one positive and one negative, what would you say would be your positive and negative
Um,
for central banks stablecoins, right?
Central bank digital currencies, not even
Oh
stable
no,
coins.
stable, not this general digital. Oh,
Central bank
that's
digital currencies. That's what I'm talking about.
oh wow, that's even more. Oh, that
Yeah.
could that could be a complete shit show, you know. Like I want to destroy this country. I'm just gonna destroy their digital currency. It's that. Like it's just the Venezuela situation, but then instead of with paper money, with digital
Yeah,
money, you could
it's more
basically have that.
control. Cash is hard to track and control, but
Yeah,
if you have control over the digits, over the banks, that's, as you said, a very shitty situations. And I'm not really for that, but if I have to look for an upside, the upside I see in it is the introduction to digital currencies and cryptocurrencies, and then moving away from it. So that's the upside
yeah.
I see, like introducing the masses towards that concept, but the masses being aware enough to move away from it. That's the second thing. And yeah, the downside is obvious, like total control. Like if you look at the um, a few months ago, I think the situation in Canada, right, with the strike on the truckers, and then the government basically forced people that they can't use their banks anymore. If it's fully central bank digital currency, that gets total control. So they can decide, yeah, you can only use this money to basically buy bread at the grocery stores. You can't use it to buy a car, for example. Then you get like an allowance allotted for certain things only.
That's an interesting take. Then it's something that might work and that might have my interest. If you could only use it on certain things.
You're pro for that?
Yeah, actually I am.
Would you care to elaborate?
So here's the thing, because um, everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Every adult should be free to make decisions themselves.
Yes.
But going to extreme is never good.
Hmm.
So what you have happening is that people have like financial like no financial control, no financial understanding, and they just overspend on everything. And giving like part of the budget, like giving part of a salary for certain basic needs, is actually a good thing, because it guarantees that you will spend at least a certain amount of your money on things your family definitely needs, instead of you being able to gamble it all away. Of course, there are gonna be loopholes. Of course, there are gonna be loopholes, but it does provide an extra. And I'm in general not for control mechanisms, but when it's a big group and people just need guidance, and that's the main reason why they take poor decisions. They don't get that guidance. You should be able to give that guidance. And you could even go to extent that if you can prove that you are able to pass a certain test, then the digital currency is removed and you get actual cash. I don't even mind that one. But then at least there's a way, because here's the thing about where we're going with our society. We constantly are like, yeah, I want my own opinion, I want my own right, I want to be able to do whatever I want. But at a certain level, these become like really terrible decisions, like really really terrible financial decisions. And if there's a way that you can like educate but also help, then why wouldn't that work? You do need kind of a leftist or a very strong right uh, wing government to be able to pull it off. Um, but it's possible.
Yeah. So, what you're saying, or what I'm hearing you say, is as long as it's to guide and educate, so that education part is important to be responsible.
Yeah,
And if certain people, or if they decide they are able to opt out of the system.
yeah. So I'm going to give a similar example. It's not the same, but the overall strategy or concept behind is the same. Military duty.
Mm-hmm.
If you're between the age of 18 and 35, I think, or 18 and 25, you have to serve at least 1 year of military duty in your country. Like there's several countries that have that system.
Yeah.
Uh, Most countries do not, but um, it does work, because going into the military for a year, especially for a young adult, it brings a certain structure.
Yeah. It's also skills.
You get disciplined, and you often don't lose that discipline, because
It's
like
been
with all
drilled in
these.
you.
Yeah, I mean, like all these 30-day challenges, and then you fail at day 27 and you never pick it up again. No, military duty is like, you're gonna do that every freaking day, and it's gonna be in your system, and you're gonna be serious about it. And there's this funny story about one of the guys from the men's volleyball team, that they would always go to his room when they were like at tournaments, and they would always go to his room because he was in the military and his room was always tidy. It was
Mm.
like always cleaned up and everything. So that's something that I'm definitely saying like, yeah, that
Okay.
And from the same perspective with military assignments and military duty for young adults, the same idea with using that uh, digital currency from a central bank to say like, hey, if your salary is 5,000 a month, 1,000 just goes, and you can only use it for this. Because most people are like, rather, yeah, but give me the money. I decide for myself.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
they eat fast food, and then they get overweight, and then you're like, yeah, but like you're not gonna get unhealthy from eating fast food once a month or twice a month. You're gonna get unhealthy if you do it every freaking
Yeah,
single
it's
day.
consistently compounding.
Yeah. So from that perspective, I think it's good.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
a fair point, interesting point.
Shout out to Tanya, by the way. Welcome back.
Oh,
Um,
and congratulations. I still need to call Joel.
yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't pick it. uh,
Congratulations from my side as well, and also with Hive because yeah, you're still kicking it. You and Joel are still kicking it. One of the few. So, what else do you got, Diego? You got some more? The fun one. I'm waiting for the fun one. Which one is
yeah,
the fun one?
I'm looking for a fun one. Okay, okay, okay. Um, I'm gonna go very specific. PlayStation controllers.
Sexual benefit? Okay, okay. Now the benefit of a this PlayStation controller is really specific, Diego. I have to hear your answer because now I'm really interested what you're gonna say specifically about the PlayStation controller.
Okay, so this was totally random, but relevant for me, I'd say, because I actually own only a PlayStation 5 controller. I do not own a console anymore. I do not own games anymore. I literally only own the PlayStation 5 controller. And
I'm so confused right now, but go on.
yeah, I use that to play video games on the computer because it's more ergonomic for me. It's more game like mouse and keyboard was like back in the day.
I can completely
And
understand that.
the PlayStation controller is very, especially the PlayStation 5, they've designed it like really optimally, like with the feedback and everything.
So it
So
thrills, like
yeah,
yeah, yeah, okay, I get it. It's such a random one.
yeah.
The, okay, and the downside?
I, I can't really think of an immediate downside, but I guess a downside would be uh, you can't use it with other consoles. But then again, it's things are getting more interoperable.
There's actually a law being passed. I think it's in Europe. They're busy with a law
I
that,
think I saw this controversy pass by
yeah,
slightly, something about gacha games and MMOs.
no, actually, this is a law about all mobile chargers
Oh,
having the same port.
like the universal charging, like
Yeah,
USB-C
and
standard.
this would be really big considering Apple would have to adjust its product. They will still have an Apple charger, which they will say if you charge your phone with another
Yeah,
phone charger than Apple, we won't reimburse you. But still,
yeah,
it
they're
would be
slowly moving to the USB-C standard,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But they haven't
yeah. Apple
technically.
will find a way to get your money, but they are moving towards the law or this the USB-C standard. So it's really interesting from that perspective. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that was the random fun one.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a fun one. Uruyari. One positive and one negative about Uruyari for
Oroyari and
international.
Suriname specifically, right?
No, just
Oh,
Uruyari in general.
Oriari in general.
You will move towards Suriname quickly enough. Um, so for those who are not familiar with the concept of Uruyari, it's actually the world celebrates New Year's Eve, and in Suriname we celebrate Old Year's Eve basically because we literally
Well,
translate
Oriari is New Year's
Uruyar.
Eve. The Eve is the day before.
Yeah, okay.
So you
New
have New
Year's
Year's
Eve,
Day and New Year's
New
Eve.
Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, New Year's Eve, which is but literally translated, it's not New Year's Eve. It's old old year.
That's the literal
The
translation,
literal translation for
but
us, it's
the
old year.
contextual translation is that.
It's New Year's Eve. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but go ahead. What makes Oriyari? What's the positive about Oriyari and what's the negative?
I'd say positive. I really don't pay much mind to it anymore, especially in recent years. But I'd say a positive is it is a like universal point in time throughout the year where people pay attention. Okay, it's time to reflect or to reset. It's like a awareness button. Like okay, something's happening, and to recalibrate. I'd say that's a positive. Regardless of if you do it like big or nothing, you are aware that
Do you have New Year's resolutions?
no,
Okay.
I do
Have you
not.
at any point had that?
I contemplated it, but then I scrapped the idea.
Okay, so you have never written down New Year's
No,
resolution. Okay,
no.
interesting. Yeah.
Um, a downside. What's a downside about New Year's Eve? I guess a downside, especially with the current economic and uh, world situation, is that you get masses of people in celebration in certain areas of the world. If you're looking at New York, Suriname, and things can go wrong where people converge in masses to celebrate, drink, etc. So that
But
might be a downside.
interestingly, it doesn't go that RE that much,
No, no, no.
but it's a
I-
negative,
I'm just
definitely.
saying, like, when
Yeah.
people converge, that the chances increase of things happening.
Okay.
You have any different pros and downs?
Well, for me, Oriyari is basically it's not that if you have amends with somebody that you're gonna make amends with people, but the vibe is completely positive. Like it's the one time of the year that something that would really irritate you, you just let it slide because you're happy.
So do you
New Year's
think the
Eve.
vibe at Oriari is the positive vibe of Oriari is stronger than Christmas?
It's
Oh,
different.
oh, yeah, they're very close to each other, but yeah.
No, the biggest difference is Christmas is more of a family tradition. It's more of a family tradition. It's
Mm.
spending time with your loved ones, getting gifts, and also I don't know how it is with you, but you get your best gifts when you're a kid. Like as you get older,
Oh yeah.
the gifts like at a certain point, people no longer know what to get you, so you just get shower gel or socks. It's just
I,
those
I
are just
I think socks are very interesting for some
yeah
reason.
yeah socks. Like if people dare, because you also have to understand from the other perspective, it's kind of hard, like figuring out your uncle's shirt size. Like, is it a large? Is it a medium? Is it an extra large? Like, what will fit? Like, so, um, so Christmas is more with family and solid, uh, solid answer by Tanya as well. Christmas is also for a lot of people is church, going to church, like really celebrating Christ. But and this is also an interesting perspective on why I asked the question in the first place. But I feel like Oriari is much more like You're thankful for everything and everybody. So it doesn't matter who you meet on the street. On that day, everybody celebrates that they're human and they get to celebrate that they get to live another day and they get to celebrate that they made it through the year. So it's a completely different feeling for me personally.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, cool. Yeah, that's most of what I had. I can go on, but I don't want
Yeah.
to go too much over time and open too many
So the
cans.
reason I asked the question is 2 weeks from now, not next week, but a week after that, I might also be doing the show from a different location, and it has to do with the fact that Surifesta is considered as the Surinamese carnival,
Mm,
and I wouldn't call it a study, but I researched on why Suriname doesn't have a proper carnival tradition, and the closest thing is in proximity to Carnival would actually be the AVD, the Avondvierdaagse, would be the closest. Proximity wise, like time of the year, the concept of walking in a parade and people standing on the side of the street to watch the parade go by. Um, but there's an important aspect missing, and that's really the party aspect. And AVD is more about your health and less about the party aspect, where Carnival really also has a party aspect. Um, But what I found out is that the countries where in the Caribbean had the biggest or most powerful carnival traditions were countries where the largest part of the population was Catholic, the
mm.
Christian, but the Catholic part of Christianity. And that's one of the main reasons why carnival is big in certain uh, Caribbean countries. But it also is very interesting why Carnival is being celebrated in the south of the Netherlands and not in the north of the Netherlands.
Okay.
So, for instance, Brabant, Limburg, those are the two like main provinces of the Netherlands that celebrate Carnival. I think Zeeland as well, but I'm not sure. But they heavily celebrate Carnival because they're also largely Catholic based. So it might not be that there's still that much of a connection between the religion and carnival, but the culture as where it came from has a lot to do with the religious constellation of society, like the religious percentage of population that's that certain religion that where it traditionally came from.
And you're going to do Surifesta where? From which country now?
No, so we're not gonna do Surfesta from another country, but I'm going to uh, 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 seminar
Mm.
on how Caribbean countries and certain European countries uh, will continue with their carnival tradition, and it will be really interesting to see because I think the next carnival will be the first carnival where really things will pick up again and post-COVID carnival. So it will be interesting to see how they approach it and what they're looking for and how they feel it's gonna work.
Okay, that's gonna be interesting. So, will we need to? Yeah, we'll adjust schedules later if we need to. But
Yeah, I have no. I actually have seen the schedule, but I have to get back to you on that.
yeah, all
But
right. But for next week, we're good, right?
yeah, for next week we're just good. We might talk a little bit about oil and gas, but we might have a guest as well.
All right. Awesome. With that being said, sorry for the late or the late posts on the older episodes. They've been slogging off, but they'll get on the website soon enough. Don't worry about that. With that being said, this was Social Confoes. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.
See you next week, same place, same time. Bye bye.